you talking about? I don't know why this thing acts like that. Got some smelt in the air fryer, but I don't know why this thing acts like that. Got some smelt in the air fryer, but connected to. I don't know why this thing acts like that. Boom!
Austin's S24 Ultra disconnected.
Handle.
Welcome to the grandest setting of them all. This is a Formula One classic like no other. 2 famous miles to conquer as the drivers dare themselves to a place of maximum attack. This is pushing on the edge like nowhere else on the calendar. Good afternoon and welcome to qualifying at the Monaco Grand Prix. It is 3.3 kilometers, 2 miles. The speed is low, but the risk is high. And how will they line up for the 78 laps that define Grand Prix Sunday, the 8th round of the year? 19 turns, all with names, all with challenges, and we go into the second qualifying hour in 7 days, where we're not sure if you want to be on the C6 or the C5, because the C6 is the better tyre, but it takes a long time to get into the operating window. Do you have the space on track? Do you have the laps on track to get that tyre functioning at full means when it matters? And it matters here more than any other qualifying hour. It's Monaco, it's round 8, and this is a thrill unlike anything we see all the way through the season. A splendid setting, and the fans have flocked in. It is a glorious day to attack a racetrack. 21 degrees is the air temperature, 40 degrees is the track temperature, and we're ready to see who steps forward. It is a multi-team battle for pole position, and for the first time this season, that includes Ferrari. And at this point, I introduce myself and say, hi, I'm Alex Shrimps, and alongside me, I bring in someone who knows how to get the fastest time around here. 2-time Monaco Grand Prix winner, David Coulthard.
Okay, what has to get done today?
It is. It's always a magical moment to be in a qualifier.
That's an engine.
Honestly,
yeah, it would be a big
uncompromising. It just was over a chat with my teammate Mark Webber, who had a pole position here, and he explained it where he felt like it was like imagining the barriers were laying back and they just became white lines. I never did imagine that. I wish I did, because it would have been less scary. But as Julian knows, this is a very unforgiving place.
Julian Palmer, this is one of the great challenges in all of Formula One.
It is. That lap of Mark's was one of the spectacular laps as well from Monaco qualifying. But we've seen quite a few recently as well. It is just such a challenge trying to thread your car. They're quite big cars as well in the modern day, through these narrow streets, and they feel even narrow when you're strapped in and hurtling around at full speed. You've got to go right up to the barriers. You can't touch the barriers. We saw Max Verstappen do one of the epic laps a couple of years ago, hitting the barriers like 3 or 4 times, glancing through the final sector, and somehow executing pole position. The balance between doing that and hitting that a little bit too hard and blowing your whole race weekend here is on a knife edge, and it's just such a wonderful hour to watch.
How was your barrier glancing? I love that expression.
I need to look at where I put this exactly. I think I know where it is, but I need to verify.
I managed to take a tyre off a rim on one of the qualifying laps. I did more than glance a few in a Grand Prix around here as well. Yeah, it's becoming ever more trendy though, isn't it, as well? If you're not coming back in from a Monaco qualifying with scuff marks on the rims and taking the paint off the tyres, you've not done a good enough job, I think.
These are incredible pictures of an incredible venue. Only in recent times have we been able to show you every angle possible.
I don't know how I can best
Drivers of last
location
1929.
on.
We are celebrating 75 years of the Formula One World Championship at this place. And we're racing around.
And so I think I have a good idea where it's supposed to go.
Alexandra there, who was in the same
I like to make sure
space
and
1
not
year
just
ago when Charles finally broke the
Like it
curse
looks like this.
and moved.
And this is gonna get replaced too.
To
This
the
is
race win, and he's topped all three practice sessions so far. At the
This is
start
gonna get replaced.
of Q1, when we get a green light at the end of the thing.
This is gonna get replaced.
Thursday, downbeating
I'm just doing this because I know I have to do this. I'm probably do this a
by
bunch
the
of
way,
times.
When you opened this qualifying hour 5 minutes ago, they left the garage in front of us. I saw the Ferraris go. They're in the back
Go
of the
straight
queue.
away.
So it shows how desperate everyone is to get out there, and they're lining up. All of us are trying them out, and everyone wants to get a lap on the board.
It's like
Okay.
fans queuing to get in to get front row at a concert.
Figure out how to best do the screen.
So excited, but that will compromise and cool their tyres that have been wrapped beautifully in blankets. That will bring pressures down a little bit as a consequence. And that actually then means that how they prepare this will be different from once we get later in the qualifying session.
Pierre Gasly's gone out there on the medium tyres. So has Franco Colapinto, just his second
Does this need
qualifying
to be-
session since he returned to Formula One. So the Alpines have gone
Does
for
this need to be cake?
what is the medium tyre of the weekend. They've gone for the C5, not the C6.
It would make
Once
sense.
again, this tricky
I
new
think-
softest
I don't know.
compact tyre, introduced last week in Imola, wasn't expected to be as big a problem in Monaco, and yet there are still some out there who fancy the more reliable medium.
It's going to be a conundrum for everyone.
Will you see that?
But at least take a more look at the Alpine drivers and get a bit of a gauge as to what that tyre is doing. Verstappen in this morning's practice was quicker on the medium than he was the soft. Those that ran the medium last week were quicker on the medium than they were the soft. That was Russell and the two Aston Martin. So there
That seems good.
is a lot of learnings out there. It's the same tyres that we had last week. Obviously, it's a different track, and we will see in this long first run that I'm expecting here, which teams are looking like they might switch to the medium.
And the great thing is that even though they may go into this with a strategy, the track will continue to evolve. This circuit will be at its best on the last lap of the Grand Prix on Sunday. That's when it's got the most rubber, the most F1 tyre impregnated into the tarmac. So it's constantly evolving. And what seems like a good strategy going into the qualifying session, you have to adapt as the drivers start getting the feedback.
Sainz backing out of his lap, having attacked on, and he will build some space on the circuit. One thing we have seen in practice all the way through this weekend, drivers
I don't know why that's a little difficult.
tripping
Is that a 10?
over each other around the 3.3 kilometers.
Actually, what it
2
gives me
miles,
a little
blazing and heating runs.
10, which is cute.
Yeah, and that's
It
one
has
thing
actually
to
one.
about this, although should
This
mention
is
Mark
10.
Stroll carries a one-place grid penalty for causing a collision right here with
It's
Charles
not a
Leclerc
10.
in the
Well, that's not a
FP1, the first practice session. But
This is a
generally,
10.
there's been a lot of frustrated drivers, but no other penalties. If you do that now, you will get a penalty, and this is incredibly difficult to avoid. There's 16 cars out, they're waiting for the McLarens.
So basically what I'm doing,
as well to hit the track.
I'm doing valve to piston clearance. So I'm moving this one rotation, and then I have some clay in there, and then one rotation, and you take everything out and see how much the valve pressed on the clay. And then we measure that and see what the clearance is, and then I have to adjust this based on the ideal specs. So this is a process that's going to happen many times. And
If you look in your mirrors, it's probably
yeah.
too late for around here, isn't it? It's about the radio communication. Maybe somewhere like here you can see.
I don't see too many videos of people doing this.
Around the rest of the lap.
Maybe it's not necessary, but
you're looking for it.
I'm doing it.
Red or
And
something. Hopefully, it's a brightly coloured.
although it might not be 100% necessary,
It's incredibly difficult to see.
it's good to learn.
So the Sabres are top at the moment with Hulkenberg, who's only made Q3 on one occasion, all of his visits
And I'm gonna replace the chain guide. I think I'm gonna get a K20Z3, which is a little bit longer on the intake side. This intake side, starter side, intake side.
Under a red flag, contrary to safety regulations of Formula 1, so he was given that penalty to carry
It's a little
through.
tough.
They'll probably do something
Put some
different
tension on
with the strategy, and it will be
okay?
a mandatory two-stop race.
Put some tension on it, for real.
One stop.
This is fun. I having fun on iRacing. Then guy crashed me out. Turn 12 North America and F4.
Slowest drivers is currently Leclerc.
I made it difficult for him, but I guess he didn't see me. Took me out, flipped my fucking car.
Signs Hamilton, whose car had
Fun,
been
but it was his fault. It's never my fault.
on that car, but they were in the allocation.
It's never my fault.
On that car, completely refilled after he hit the barriers at Massenet,
Never.
the third corner of the race.
It's never my
Some
fault.
level of confidence from Red Bull. I'm only now just seeing the car.
I'm serious. I'm fucking
being
serious.
ready to go there. You can see it on the screen now as well. It's waited 5 minutes. Thought we'll let everyone else pick up the track. Normally you just want to get a few laps under your belt, get a feel for it, but now Max is finally released, and that's deliberate.
Yeah, he is the last car to go out on track, and we just looked at our track map. We've got Piastri just getting ready to launch a lap. So I suspect they'll be, just come out onto pit lane. So you'll let Piastri go around turn 1, and then you'll have a whole open space to play with and prepare his lap.
So Lando Norris's best starting position around this circuit is 4th place. He has one pole position this year in the opening round of the season at Albert Park. Norris making his way through this fantastic drone shot that we have to show you Casino Square, Mirabeau, and then he makes his way to Portier in the McLaren, chasing his first Monaco Grand Prix win in his Formula 1 career. He's been on the podium before around this racetrack, but never on the top step. He trails Oscar Piastri by 13 points in the championship, and that was not the ideal route through the Nouvelle chicane.
Carried serious entry speed, didn't he? Wasn't sure if he was able to make that corner on the left-hand side, but he's hustling on still there. The McLaren brakes have been tricky. Norris particularly has been sensitive to the brakes this year.
Okay.
And has been making...
Boom! Next.
Yesterday again looked like he was missing
Put the thing on. Right? That thing. Okay. So, you should always do your
Top
research.
6 separated by less than 10 seconds. Ridiculous margins out there in the early stages. I know it's about to
My
change,
thorough
and it does
research.
change. Oscar Piastri ruins that stat.
Supposed to be
He's into the second
one longer than another, right?
I know, but that was a nice
Oh, I guess this is the one on. Okay. So,
Really quickly.
I have this
Before it's completely blown wide open, isn't it?
exterior chain guide.
Hamilton is purple in the first sector, so that indicates
So I don't have
that
to,
he's successfully.
if I ever have to adjust anything with the cam, the chain guide.
Otherwise, he
I
will not be delivering that.
don't have to suspend it with the hanger or anything. So this keeps everything lined up. So I got this. And the longer bolt is from Dry Cartel. The longer bolt goes on top.
I'm not sure that they'd actually definitely repair that car after practice. It was a hit on the rear and the front. So there's been a lot of work that's gone on in the
This is the brand new.
They didn't look like they were rushing when I was down there before the session. And there we go. Hamilton takes it up to second. Leclerc takes it to the top. Ferrari need business.
On board with the reigning world champion, 4-time world champion Max Verstappen, who chases his third this Friday, now on qualifying Saturday, just looking to book his place in the top 15. Driver who produced a sensational pole lap here
Sensational.
in 2023 is top of the pile in 2025 with 9 minutes to go. Good
Tough plastic right here, man.
as we check in with Patrick
It's
Dempsey,
not playing games.
who's running the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Now you reuse this bag, this bag
Actually,
too.
the real Patrick Dempsey. It's all actors stay in character, don't they?
Reuse this
Full
bag.
methods at this stage. Okay, Q1 only Bevan knows he's going to be at the back end. He is going to be a prime candidate
smell.
to come in on lap 1,
That
change tyres, come in on
bloody
lap
burn.
2 and change tyres. We expect him to run the most extreme strategy with this new 2-stop rule that we have tomorrow. All because he was shown the red flag by an LED panel on his way to the Rascas.
That is so unfortunate.
That has been all the way through the history of the Formula 1 World
Yeah,
Championship.
and I already cooked it. I didn't even cook it in 10 minutes.
You overtake
Fucking
the
idiot.
flag. Yuki Tsunoda improves up to 6th position, but it's Oliver Behrman in P5. Lando Norris going very, very quickly in the middle sector of the racetrack. The 33.8 through there, and he's
bullshit.
working the wheel on the exit of the second part of the swimming pool.
He's going to find an Alpine that peels off into the pits, so that's okay. Norris can come through the final corner and get a competitive time on the board. Competitive, top by 3/10.
So plenty of time being found out there, and this is in sharp contrast to what we saw earlier on in practice. The soft tyre biting into the tarmac. We've run a Formula 2 race on Pirelli rubber. In the meantime, 22 of them thundering around this circuit for the sprint race that they've had. And Piastri makes it a McLaren 1-2. They're separated by about 0.2 of a second as Antonelli goes to P7. Bottom 5, Sainz, Colapinto, Albon, Stroll, and Gasly.
Yeah, the times are just falling thick and fast. There's big track evolution here. Tyres are hanging in there, so it does look like continuing to do a sequence of laps, providing you can avoid traffic and keep everything charged.
Max's first lap was actually very impressive. To come out of the pits late, do one lap and go to the top. He's now on a better lap on his second flying lap, so Red Bull are right in contention here.
Charles Leclerc improves to second position. Hadjar falls to the drop zone. The young French driver had a couple of clips of the barrier yesterday, including the Nouvelle chicane that we're heading to right now, with Max Verstappen waiting to rotate the Red Bull through. He's heading to the back corner next, looking to try and improve to the top of the timing page. He's just behind Lando Norris by 0.07 of a second. And it's risk versus reward at this point. He only needs to be top 15 on the brink right now.
Makes
George
some
Russell,
smell.
who's had a tough weekend, hasn't been able to find the pace. He's running
Try
out
it.
of ideas of how to fix a car in practice.
Yeah, clipped the inside curve
Deboning
too much as he went through the
and
final
you
corner.
season it. I took some
it looks
certain
fairly
steel off,
good. He's all getting through the
cut
next
some
part
of the
qualifying,
fins,
but it
took
looks
a little bit of
intense,
bone
a
to the
little bit
ribs.
tight.
You
Normally,
season it on both sides, and then you throw in some cornmeal flour, put a little cornstarch in there. The seasoning before was, you know, the regular seasoning salt, garlic, powder, onion powder, put a little Old Bay in there,
You can see the track wraps itself
and
around.
then fry it. Bought a new fryer.
Shot of the Mediterranean
I
Sea.
used avocado oil.
That's what he wanted to see.
So,
So Stroll's going to get something more to go with his one-place grid penalty already.
Yeah, look, that's fair comment. It's difficult to see the difference, but the team should have said you've got two cars. As we see Bob Delento touch the arm. Cool. Well, not really. I wouldn't say that was too
That's
close.
down in
He
England.
had a couple of millimeters to spare. But Alex, sorry for leaning on you as that event was unfolding, coming into the chicane. I thought I was cruising two cars coming together with a big differential in speed, and it could have been very messy.
doing well.
That is the part of the circuit where if you're not on the same page, we've seen in the past Sergio Perez
Nah,
an enormous accident.
Burning, I cooked it a little bit too much in the air fryer. Really crispy.
You've been into the
Some of
overcome
them.
there as well in previous
They
years.
was- I'm sure.
Over the curve and into the wall. It's a high-speed run out of the tunnel and down to the Nouvelle chicane. Oscar Piastri, he's been chasing it a little bit across the course of the weekend. He's gone top by 0.2 of a second. This is Hulkenberg, currently in the drop zone. The RBs, Lawson, Hadjar, had great pace across the practice session, but this is qualifying. This is the pressure that it provides. Hulkenberg is out there trying to push on, trying to attack. He's got new soft Pirelli tyres. He tries to improve to the next stage of qualifying, and Alpine's gamble on the medium tyres will not be repeated. It was worth trying on the evidence that we saw in the last hour of practice, but the track has cleaned up and things are much better now for the soft tyre.
Hulkenberg finding some traffic that gets out of the way as Hamilton hugs the Armco on the inside there between the swimming pool sections. It's difficult. All these guys have gone out laps or slow laps. You're just hoping that you don't trip someone up. It's all about intentional, as was Stroll's, but it will cost you your weekend. Hulkenberg's been quick so far, and there we go, up to 6th place.
Yeah, good lap that should see him make it through. And just looking at the very tail end, the Alpines, it's never comfortable when you're in the final few minutes and you need to get a clean lap, all cars out on track. And clearly the Alpine not working as well at these lower speed corners.
Piastri says he's hit the wall again. He took the front wing off the car in the most dramatic moment of his weekend. Isaac Hadjar's been as high as 7th on the grid in his rookie Formula 1 season. Never eliminated in Q1 in his F1 career so far. Good enough for 7th, but behind Hulkenberg as Antonelli goes to P6, and now it's all about delivering under the pressure of these final runs. Charles Leclerc on the fastest first sector.
Really on the catch-up.
Esteban Ocon will be the lead pass on the grid.
Save the best one for last. I know that's not
penalty, and he takes that far up to P6, driver who's previously been
And next week we're gonna make next week we'll get that.
Into 16th
Actually,
in
we
the
got
drop
that.
zone. This thing's down with 3.5 minutes to go.
Maybe when I come back, or
He's
no.
starting a flying lap now.
I should do it. Well, no, because if I fucking make, I always make too much food. And if I make that and then I have to leave, then it's gonna sit in the refrigerator. You don't want to have fish.
Racing pit stop for Ferrari.
Might make something else. Might grill
3
next
minutes
week.
on the
Yeah,
clock.
grill next
He's
week.
going to one flying lap, and with everyone else out there trying to improve, he may well end up in the drop zone under massive pressure.
Yeah, that does put big focus on that
I
single
can still grill
Yes, we also came in just
Do fish
before.
fry it.
Team check the side of the car.
Put some aluminum foil.
Mechanics, and he's gone back out
And
again.
grill some fish around here.
Not finding it
Open
easy
my car a little
to
bit.
get back up to speed around this circuit. It's not been an easy hunting ground in Formula 3 or Formula 2 for him compared to other venues like Imola, where we were last week, where he's won at in the past. Big pressure lap for Yuki Tsunoda, trying to get through into Q2. 2 minutes to go, and that's a lap that takes him up to 9th position. Hamilton drops down to 11th. Sainz on the brink. He's currently P15.
Both Williams, surprisingly, in trouble at this stage, but also both on good laps. So Alex Albon is coming through the final corner first, having picked up the decent first and second sectors, and maybe a little bit of a tiny toe, which is
This is
not that
perfect,
effective
this
around
one's
Monaco,
perfect.
but he'll take it anyway over the line to go up to 4. So Albon's through. Can Sainz replicate that in the Williams that has looked quick? He's good through 2 sectors.
So the track is offering a lot of grip, getting better with every single tour that they do around the 2 miles. But crucially, if anyone sticks it in the barrier, you are vulnerable if you are around
They're small
the drop
bones.
zone. And that's the situation. So everyone's expecting to find at least a couple
They're so
of
small.
seconds. And Williams
You don't
goes
really notice them.
from
It's easy to fry
4th and 5th with 95 seconds of the session to go.
Well, big scalps in terms of name. Fluorescence sitting there in 17th and 19th. We've got Alonso, Mark Bilbao. He's got a bit of space ahead of him, so he's going to come across the line just at the very end as he makes his way through. Entrance to the high-speed chicane at the swimming pool.
There's 1 lap left for everyone, basically, at this point. Some starting it, and Lewis Hamilton, some still trying to get round for 1 more lap. There's enough time for it. I feel like Hamilton needs to make a good jump here, because those behind have got plenty of pace to jump up, with the track getting ever better.
Well, Alonso's proved his pace already this weekend. We've seen Liam Lawson run in the top 10 as well. And the turn 3 incident involving Hamilton and Verstappen has been only noted for impeding. So that will be looked at. Might warrant a full investigation. Hamilton has posted a time 2/10 of a second away from Charles Leclerc, his new teammate for this season. Hamilton just trying to progress. He has gone out in Q2 in the last 2 Grand Prix weekends.
Not a great first sector for Hamilton. It's not far away, but you'd be hoping with a fresh set of boots at this stage of the session to be seeing personal bests.
Bennett jumps ahead of him, and Bennett's first sector was better than Hamilton's as well. Oh, well, that's not a bad middle sector to back it up.
That's what he needed, that's what he's got. About a 10th of a second away from his teammate's benchmark. He has 1 corner to go, the 19th and final one around the racetrack. Verstappen is the first driver to take the checkered flag at the end of Q1. Lewis Hamilton goes from at risk to P4, and it's Lawson, Bortoleto, Alonso, Stroll and Colapinto in the drop zone. Big improvement when he needed it for Hulkenberg. He is in 10th position. Lawson takes that risk away, goes to 9th position. Alonso now cuts the beam and goes to 7th
Actually,
place
I can
under
make
pressure.
sense, okay.
Norris improves to 2nd. Gabriel Bortoleto,
Sorry,
can he
so-
find his way around the final corner and
Yeah.
take a step forward when he needs to? Tsunoda goes to 10th.
I know.
Bortoleto goes to 15th. And now Hadjar is trying to fight back and take the place back, and does so to knock Bortoleto out, along with Behrman. And we've got a yellow flag out on the circuit. We've got Lance Stroll backing off as a result. And the checkered flag is out.
He's out. He's out.
And the yellow flags were out for Kimi Antonelli into the barrier. The red flag flies, and he has found himself in the wall. The Nouvelle chicane.
Pushing too much. The guy.
Over the curve, that's the only way you could get there unless something breaks on the car. And it's Bortoletto, Behrman, Gasly, Stroll, and Colapinto who fall at the first hurdle. Kimi Antonelli's first trip to Monaco in a Formula One car, and he's found the barrier.
Jumps out of the car, he's technically made it through, but that'll be 4 go out in Q2.
Okay, let's get back to work.
Rookie, isn't it? It's a bit of an eye-opener driving around these cars around these streets, and Antonelli's just been searching a little bit through the weekend. Let's see what happens. He carried a bit too much speed into this braking zone.
Talking about the speed that they carry into the Nouvelle chicane.
Clipped the wall almost.
Nice.
He clipped the
Yeah,
left
off
it.
the tyre, hasn't he? So he's done the opposite of Hadger in 3 practice.
Okay, mate, you're okay?
That's fine. If you could just ease it before you hop out.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, right, you okay then?
Yeah,
Yeah, he clipped it. He
Yeah,
clipped.
he took the front tyre off
The
the
left.
rim and then had no front grip, and that's taken him into the barrier. Very, very unfortunate, but tiny margins on this circuit.
Yeah, you asked me at the top of the qualifying hour if I'd ever brushed the walls in qualifying. And I said, I got the tyre, I did it there. That was exactly, it was on the rear, and I managed to get it back to the pits without such drama. But you have
I
to
remember
agree
turning
on the
this back
exit
off.
because you get rewarded
I might put another
a lot
light.
more on the exit for every millimetre.
How
of
would be
physical
best?
take.
But see,
And we've had a few drivers that have done that this weekend. So
Oh, yeah, mobile lights,
we
yeah.
did it yesterday, as did Isaac Hajar. And under pressure there, Antonelli in the end, 15, he needed to pick out a lap, or at least he thought he needed to pick out a lap. And it's just
talking my neighbors.
Well, you've got to take any positive out of negative.
Okay.
2 mandatory stops tomorrow. That's 2 opportunities to bounce back from that difficult grid position.
They will be thinking about taking an extreme strategy, trying to get their stops out of the way as soon as possible. Bortoletto, Behrman, Gasly, Stroll, and Colapinto, the 5 drivers to fall. Bortoletto missing out on Q2 by 200ths of a second. Behrman won't be too disappointed with 17th position. He already had a 10th place grid penalty. And Pierre Gasly, who has only missed out on the points once here in 6 visits, will find himself
Long
with
walk
a
up
really
top.
P17 start. Michael Colapinto has
I'm only gonna,
every lap
I'm not gonna tighten it all the way,
to reach the
simply because I know I have to do something else.
Williams
And also the chain is in
top
it.
10 in Baku. Marshals, and they are brilliant marshals around here, going to work recovering the Mercedes. They have to lift that up, and they don't have too far to push it. There's no barrier about 10 metres away.
So the 2 drivers that had grid penalties are out anyway. Ben, who was destined to be in the back of the grid really, unless he was an absolute hero and got better than 10th. So he's going to be at the back of the grid with Lance Stroll, who still has to move to the stewards. And that's the way probably one from the who's out anyway. Tough one for Alpine with both of their drivers gone, and they went from mediums to softs. They didn't really find a lot more competitiveness with that switch. Still at the bottom. That's why Verstappen and Hamilton are under association.
Lewis. Nice feeling up.
Might be a tough one to argue for Hamilton. Going to be on that part of the track on the outside.
Verstappen pushing behind 3 seconds. By slowing down behind. Jovius.
And you said he was slowing down. It's
Well,
I need a
There's
Alan.
a new driver and engineer combination, but that could cost Lewis Hamilton 3 places on the grid. Further around,
What the hell did he do?
attacking, rushing the wall on the second part of the swimming pool section.
Right up to it and getting away with that one. I know a lot. Hamilton.
Competing.
Don't want to be on that part of the track on the outside.
Verstappen pushing behind 3 seconds. By slowing down behind. Jovius.
and you said he was slowing down. It's
Well, it's a new driver and engineer combination, but that could cost Lewis Hamilton 3 places on the grid. Further around the lap, attacking, rushing the wall on the second part of the swimming pool section.
He said the wrong
Right up
shit.
to it and getting away with that one.
It's hard. Yeah, I mean,
well to the turn one.
Okay.
Up to him brushing the walls. I told you it's fashionable now. Everyone doing it.
Has any man done more laps around Monaco than Fernando Alonso?
I'd be amazed. I'd be absolutely amazed.
I'm gonna be a better streamer, I promise.
But other than that,
We'll have a look into the archive whilst we do that. Let's check in with Alex Brundle, who's on the roof.
Hello guys, a couple of more bits and bobs about that Antonelli crash, some offshoots. Firstly, more pain for Mercedes. We know what a strategic race this is going to be, and not having both the cars in the action is going to be a big deal for Mercedes moving into tomorrow. When you look at the actual incident, I was down there in FP2, and the Mercedes is really aggressive over that right-hand curve. When they took the right-hand curve of the new Belgian chicane, they couldn't get the power down. So what I think Antonelli's trying to do here is just open up as much as he can that second apex to try and not have to take too much curve on the right-hand side, and this judgment then on the way in, as you correctly point out, then damage on the way in, and then just doesn't have the ability to turn the car through the exit. Very similar incident to what we saw for Isaac Hadjar early on in the weekend.
How about that? I honestly don't think this is actually
very rookie at Monaco, isn't it? He's been building up to it all weekend long. Misfortune for him, he could theoretically take part in the second part of qualifying, but of course that car will now be out for the rest of the session.
Thank you, Alex. We are building up to Q2, having lost Gabriel Bortoleto, Oliver Behrman and Lance Stroll, and also the two Alpines. Want to bring in Ruth Luscombe for a bit of analysis on them running on the mediums.
Yes, thank you, JT. Alpine were the only team to opt to run that medium tyre in Q1, and it did not work for either of their drivers. Track evolution was 5.1 seconds a lap, and it makes it more difficult for the driver to follow the track. Pierre did improve by about 0.2, but on average it was something like 5 to 6/10 drivers were able to find. Into this session, we're expecting to see more cars back on that soft tyre. Franco, especially with a rookie, very, very difficult. I think at the moment it does look like that soft tyre has the edge. We'll have to see if anybody else tries it, but first doors goes to the soft tyre.
Thank you, Ruth. We are queuing up at the end of the pit lane. And in that queue, we've got both Williams and Lewis Hamilton on the medium tyre.
So they're trying to use them up now at this point. I think they're not, I don't think, thinking about a Q3 run yet on the medium. They want to try and save themselves soft.
Okay, that's in.
I think the medium.
No, I think it's chain time.
He actually got blocked on that first run.
Wow,
We saw it.
time is here.
It's in the stride feeding, and as we had one flying lap, Pinto's been honestly slow in the weekend, and he ends even on the soft tyres.
Okay, I wonder if I can see everything.
But I think it's too risky for those front runners to think about it for the Q3. So there we go. On Leclerc's Ferrari. They'll get some learnings from this, but I think if you're in contention, you have one more set.
I might take this out.
You've just got to stick through a rough amount of softs and just find a groove rather than try and do something whack-a-mole.
yeah, this is still a process of discovery at this point. There's so much track evolution here. Even while you sit between sessions, you would expect the first run, the first lap of this car to
Okay, I think I'm supposed to line up like
be
that.
quicker. So there's still a long way to go from where we set the lap time bar to where we'll end up in qualifying, assuming we get 3 laps.
By the way, we're still 3 tenths away from the outright pace of practice. So even though the track is getting better through qualifying, it's not as good as it was earlier on in practice. It's still getting back.
Figure out how to
Probably
rotate
past that in this next Q2 session. But yeah, the drums have actually been on Charlotte Claire. Has been
Yeah, sure. Rotate like this.
We're queued up at the end of the pit lane. Easy to load up. Pressure that there. And this way. He did so. He presses through. So there's better stuff.
There's 1/10 between Tsunoda, Pinto, and Bortoleto out in 16. 1/10 and 2004. Ridiculous. And so, around this circuit, fighting for 1/10, all of the corners you're going to have to do bang on to get that 1/10, and how easy it is to lose it in a flash as well. Really tiny margins to this gap. So,
Well, we've been talking about how close Formula 1. This is the closest season ever. And I say that as a statement of fact because I don't believe we'll find anything in the record books that gives us such tight racing. it's closer than the one-make formulas below, F3, F2. And when you consider all of the different moving parts that have to go into the design, the build of these cars, the only common parts are the tire, the performance parts.
I might have to take the whole thing off, but there's a notch right here. And unfortunately, I don't have anything right here on the gears.
Go and jump on the scales and touch the media now. Charles Leclerc.
I guess they figure if you have the top, the sides are broken. I mean, that makes sense.
So, you know, it is incredibly close.
Son of a bitch.
I think I might have to fail to make the top 20 in my career if it had been that close.
Move that a bit, because that's not going to work.
These have been on pole around these streets in the past, so you can check all the self-deprecation you like.
I mean, I don't know if that's torqued.
We've got the record book.
These are torqued.
We've also got a green light at the end of the pit lane, and the second part of qualifying is underway. Cars pouring out onto the circuit. We're going to have 14 of them, so
on top. I might have to rotate this.
Easier, but we saw you don't have the communication right between driver and engineer and the person sat behind the steering wheel. It can get you with three-place penalties. We've seen it for Lando Norris in the past, we've seen it for Charles Leclerc in the past. Around here, even with the two-stop looming over tomorrow's Grand Prix, it's a really scruffy way to ruin your Sunday. Well, especially with the two-stop looming, because that is a strategy coming in tomorrow where if you have teammates running line astern, you can have a big advantage. So I don't think Max is going to go easy in the stewards room later, because as I said, it's unlikely that Yuki's going to end up qualifying near Max if Max hooks this all up. So he might be a bit of a lone ranger out front. He wants everyone around him to be isolated as well, and then we're going to have a bit of a thrilling push all the way race. As soon as you have teammates together, you can then start to have some jiggery pokery with the strategy and start playing games.
Yeah, you've got to say that Yuki has shown signs in qualifying of being closer to Max. It could be the nature of this racetrack as well, but when it comes out of that final part of the qualifying session, when everybody tightens the belts, takes a breath, then that's where he needs to step up.
Yeah, and that's evidenced by the fact that his best starting position of the season was scored with the junior team, with the Racing Bulls 5th position at the start of the campaign. Best he's managed for the senior team, Red Bull Racing.
Might not work.
Well, celebrating their 20th year of competition, being established at the front for a long time. P8, so that's the best he's managed. And he's looking for a top 10 minimum, and Red Bull will be hoping that he can be as close to Max Verstappen as possible. And Charles Leclerc climbing the hill through Beau Rivage. He's heading to Massenet, where his teammate tagged the wall earlier on, and that's not a happy corner for Lewis Hamilton today, because that's the corner where he was in the path of Max Verstappen.
Yeah, it's actually an unusual place in the drive for someone to crash there. I actually haven't had the opportunity, I don't know if you did, Julian, to get a bit of analysis to see what it was that led to that snap. Was it just carrying too much speed, or was there something else that caused that?
There were a couple of cars that were a little bit ahead of him that wouldn't have helped, maybe a bit of dirty air, but he also was attacking with a lot of speed, and then as soon as you have it was a small oversteer and he went wide and offline, and that's actually where Max was when he went around the outside. It's a perilous place to be at Massenet, because the grip level just falls away towards the outside, and that's what happened to Lewis earlier on. I used to really enjoy that corner. Yeah, I think it's one of the underrated ones in the calendar. You're looking at me as if, what are you saying?
I know, I never knew where to place the car through that corner. It was like the longest corner with the latest apex in the history of Formula 1 corners. I found it all very confusing.
Charles Leclerc goes quickest. Different horses for different courses in the commentary box. We've got Leclerc, Lawson, Alonso, then Hamilton. Ferrari's on the medium tyre, Williams are on the medium tyre. George Russell's ventured out there on the yellow walled medium, but the evidence of Cuba
I have to rotate
suggested that the soft tyre was firing up a lot quicker.
Unfortunately.
Lando Norris is on as he comes across the line, sets the fastest time in this second part of qualifying around the streets of Monte Carlo by 0.3 of a second. We are looking for our top 10 drivers to contend for pole position. Hulkenberg gets himself in to 6th position, which has been occupied by Carlos Sainz for the last 3 Formula 1. So Norris reduces the benchmark. He is 6,000ths away from what Leclerc did in practice earlier on.
Yeah, this has to be rotated. Now, the thing about it,
Well, it never rains but it pours. As you can see in that Mercedes,
do I
very slowly
take this
in
out
the
of
tunnel.
alignment?
So does he have?
I don't think I
power?
should. I should take
Looks like
this
it's switched
plate
off.
out of alignment.
Yeah, yellow flag is out. They want to neutralise it, given that he is static
And I
in the
don't know how to
tunnel
do
in a
that
place that
at
any
the moment.
driver wants to come to a halt. There is a big direction change in there, even though it's a flat corner, and understandably the red flag is out because
So,
they don't want to take any risk there.
yeah, it might be at a stopping point.
Huge speed, flat out through the tunnel on Formula One's most iconic stretches. But what a tough day for Mercedes. Antonelli in the barrier, George Russell coming to a halt, trying different modes to lift back, and he's stuck.
Right, restart it, turn on.
Yeah, let's give it a go.
Control Alt Delete for George Russell, try and fire it up.
He'll go through a sequence there. He's certainly got electrical power because he's dashboard.
I think he's fired it up, isn't he?
And here on tip over,
Has he got any throttle?
Yeah, fly by wire, so there's no direct link, no trusty old cable between the engine and the barrel or butterflies.
what a really tough qualifying Saturday. Mercedes find themselves. We're talking about cars being line astern, but not 14th and 15th.
Wow, on the steering wheel for George. I don't think he's going anywhere.
I think that's going over, sorry mate. Got no battery.
Of all the places to have a tough qualifying day, this would be at the bottom of the list. He hasn't been lower on the grid than 5th position all season long, but that changes.
Game over.
Really tough qualifying. Then he's over for Mercedes.
Game over for me too. I gotta learn how to work these cams. So I have to rotate this. It should be lined up on top.
The sinking feeling here. If it goes
I don't want to move this. I could move it, but
that lie ahead and overtake.
actually I don't really know why I don't.
Switch your mind to the positives.
I don't really
That
need
means
it
we
to
have a
be
more
there.
altered
Right.
race strategy, which may come into play into the hands if we have safety cars, virtual safety cars. We know how that's played out for some of the drivers in other Grand Prix.
It's only for torque,
And then there'll
right?
be a nice selection of how many marshals can touch the driver.
Yeah, I have to rotate
George
it.
Russell.
That's the next thing. After you get this
that they're going to push.
together, then you
Yeah.
rotate it.
And he's quite. I think there is a gap in the middle of the tunnel. And he's staying with the car until they get there.
Isn't that right?
Such a good group.
So I could take these pins out. I don't really need them.
And it allows us, because there are
What
so many
else
incidents
would
around
be
here.
useful? It's just a torque everything. Torque this, torque that.
I'm not sure what they're playing. at the
Yeah,
moment.
I think his seatbelt, he had sat on
And I don't really want to rotate this.
He was going to sit and style it out, and then he realised I'm not going to have any brakes when you start going down out the other side of the tunnel. So that was the seatbelt buckle that fell onto the floor. As we go on board, we'll be able to listen to see exactly. Oh, it was very early in the lap. It was on the rise up to Casino.
It's cruised a lot, mate, hasn't it? It's high up, really high up, and then as he just free-wheeled the whole way down, hoping for something to fix.
Try to make it back. You heard the strike of the floor and then the loss of power. And Russell already working the wheel.
Sorry about that.
Came into this weekend trying to chase his first podium around here. His best result here is P5. That facial expression tells the story. The marshals brilliantly recovering the car, but Mercedes have their time done in qualifying. Red flag is out, session is suspended, and Mercedes are facing an uphill struggle in the Monaco Grand Prix of 2025 as the relay race between those dressed in orange continues. Alex Brundle, it's looking good for the cars. Livery in orange around the racetrack.
It's all got very cool runnings, hasn't it? On the way down to the new Belgian chicane and pushing the Mercedes. Well, if they were worried about strategy with Antonelli being out of the session, they'll be even more upset now with both cars. Let's have a look at where we're at with Lando Norris then. He's the pace car so far in the session, just over a 10th clear of giving us absolutely everything in terms of a feel for where they're at here on the medium tyre. At this stage of the session, Lando has been super aggressive all weekend. And it's this early stage of the lap where the soft tyre looks to be much better, firing up and giving the drivers braking performance down towards turn 1. In general though, the Ferrari's been really strong up the hill and the McLaren slightly better, especially through these switchbacks down through Mirabel, slightly wide actually there. Lando Norris as he rolls his way through. But the McLaren's been performing so well under traction all weekend. You can see it take off out of the hairpin there and then take off out of Portier again, take that speed all the way through the tunnel where we saw George Russell slow a few moments ago. I hate to see cars going at non-racing speed through that section of the racetrack, makes me wince to watch them go in there, plugged into the racetrack. The only driver to get underneath a 1:11 so far in this session. Lando Norris certainly continues to come through them lovely and neat and tidy, using all of the road through the outside of the second part of the swimming pool. And there's still time on the table, isn't there? Because look at that moment he had, even on the fastest lap of the session into the Rascats, had to have a couple of bites of the steering wheel there. So those are a few tenths that Norris will be looking to scoop up, put in the basket and take to the line if he possibly can through the end of Q2, and a bit more time on the table for the McLaren to take into Q3 as well.
Thank you, Alex. Taking us through what remains at the moment the fastest lap. Max Verstappen 10th and a bit slower. Charles Leclerc out there on the medium tyre, Alex Albon out there on the medium tyre as well. And Lawson and Hadjar who had to fight to get through. Again, showing they've got decent pace. We have Hulkenberg primed and ready, in good position to go straight out into the fast lane. And we will get the session resumption time. Get back out there as soon as race control will allow us to do so. And there is the official resumption time. The Q2 will resume in 4 minutes. Now with that official resumption time displayed to the teams, you are allowed to enter the fast lane. We've seen the Mercedes pair and Franco Colapinto fall foul of that rule. Some hanging in the garage and others queuing up, as you can see, with Esteban Ocon, who's been on the podium around this racetrack in the past, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton parked up directly behind his team.
Two Ferraris back on soft tyres, so that early burn of the set of mediums, I think, was just that. They wanted to get back onto the softs where they should now run through the rest of qualifying. And you do just want to dial in on one set because there can be a difference of balance and feel from compound to compound, even if the lap time is massively different. You'll see the softs is something everyone will do and get back into the rhythm that both Ferraris have shown really through the weekend. Leclerc has been the more comfortable, has been the one at the top of the time all the time. But Hamilton is still in this.
Ruth Buscombe is across all things strategy for us. Ruth, getting through the medium tyres, we're expecting everyone to head to the softs. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. I think in this session, those cars that are saved 2 mediums, that still may not be a bad strategy. That could help tomorrow when they have to run 2 compounds. But for now, in qualifying, we can see with the 2 drivers that did clean laps, that was Charles and Albon. It was at least a 10th slower on the medium tyre. So those that do have a soft to bolt on, they're doing it now. Ferrari reacting, and I think very well, in order to get those laps on the soft, exactly as Jolene says. The more numbers of goes they got on that tyre, more bites of the cherry. That man is going for pole, and they want to get the reference and all the braking points on that C6 tyre, and critically the outlap correct before we get to that final Q3 session.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Appreciate your insight across the entire weekend. We're about to resume the weekend in a few moments' time as we build up to Q2. So we know Antonelli hit the barrier at the end of Q1. We know that Russell couldn't make his way out of the tunnel without a push from the ever-impressive Marshalls, and in the end they pushed him to freewheel back down the hill, and he parked up the runoff area of the Nouvelle chicane. So 3 drivers will fall at this second hurdle, along with the Mercedes pair who will play no further part. 10 whole minutes to sort that out as we look at a comparison on the corner of your screen between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Both drivers still trying to chase down Oscar Piastri, who's our championship leader after 7 rounds of the Formula 1 World Championship in 2025. 22 points separating the top 3 in this year's Drivers' Championship.
Again, this session's still going to evolve, and we expect to see times come down, but it's a fairly hefty gap in that middle sector. McLaren clearly switching on and working well in that sequence from Casino Square down towards the end of the exit of the chicane. So that's where, at this early stage, McLaren has the advantage over Red Bull.
McLaren will be happy to see that as well. Oscar Piastri was on the front row here last year at just his 2nd visit to the Principality. Lando Norris hoping to do exactly that, having never started in the top 3 here in his Formula 1 career. He has finished in the top 3. George Russell can only walk on. He's made his way from the Nouvelle chicane back to the pit lane to start the debrief. And they will be slightly grateful that it's small, and I know it's a small crumb of comfort, as they do have the 2-stop strategy, just something to work with, because if it's a 1-stop, there's no getting out of jail from where you start 14th, 15th. An uphill task for them. A green light at the end of the pit lane for us. We resume qualifying after a delay to recover the Mercedes of George Russell. So 3 drivers will join the Mercedes pair on a really difficult qualifying Saturday for them.
Sure, also Fernando Alonso there on some medium tyres, so I think the tyre saga will rumble on at least a little more as they head out with 9 minutes to go. They could still do 2 runs in this. There's time for a quick flying lap and then come back in and go again. It's effectively a Q3 session that they're in now.
Yeah, well, they were the ones that led the way with that country strategy in San Marino. So normally you want to have as much grip as possible, but it's nothing if you can't balance it. And that slightly harder medium may well just be giving them a window that works for their car.
So many vantage points. That's the famous hairpin, originally the station hairpin, and then known by different names for the hotel that was built in its place, and so many balconies occupied. Any view will do. Oh, some really beautiful vantage points around this racetrack. Lewis Hamilton knows he's back in the fight to run at the front of the field, having been outside the top 10 for the last 2 events. Hamilton, a 3-time Monaco Grand Prix winner, is up there nice and early on the soft tyres, looking to book his place in the top 10 shootout. Put down a lap time, and this is the word that every driver keeps using, whether they used to do it and they're now in the commentary box, whether they are just jumping out of the car after the practice sessions. It's confidence. Can you give yourself the foundation to get more confident throughout the entire qualifying hour?
It was a great onboard entry to the first corner there. It was a brief moment of straight steering as after you start to pick up the brakes, you can then release the steering before turning through Sandevort, and in the time it's taken me to explain that, we're down in Mirabel. He's a track casino where he had the issues earlier. We've discovered in this commentary that Julian likes it long and late. That's one of his favourite corners. And down at the first 240, early turn in here, let the car drift. Big power as he heads through the tunnel, absolutely flat, out into the bright lights, past the yacht club. And did he clip the curb there, Julie?
I thought he did. It was so close. I wasn't sure if he might have done on the left rear. He's still giving it everything heading into the fast stuff. So he's judged that just about perfectly.
This is the most animated lap we've seen from Lewis Hamilton all weekend long. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, they've been hustling the cars since FP1. Now in Q2, Hamilton getting the grip, the track rubbering in. He's 3/10 of a second away from Charles Leclerc. But Ferrari, for all their qualifying woes, they're a 1-2 at the moment.
Yeah, whilst we were watching Hamilton's animated lap, Leclerc has just put in purple sectors across the board and has smashed it the fastest lap of the weekend so far. So the benchmark's coming down and Leclerc is finding his groove.
Well, I can only imagine what Leclerc's lap looked like, because Hamilton's looked really, really good.
Leclerc's this weekend has looked just different. He's so sharp on that front end. The car looks darty. He's hustling it the whole way through up to the barriers on the entry, glancing almost on the apex as well, and then to the exit. He looks so hooked up. And, well, yeah, it must have been something special to be doing that pace.
Carlos Sainz moves himself up to 7th position. Alex Albon, lead Williams, medium tyres, and Norris on a quick lap through the first sector.
What do you think of that? Sainz just
Cut the middle.
ignoring the first corner.
Yeah, look, I think the racetrack's a racetrack, and if you're cutting corners, you should only be on the first lap of the Grand Prix, or because you run wide.
Not because you can't be bothered.
Absolutely, which is what it looked like he did. He just couldn't be bothered going through the apex.
And he was driving Fernando Alonso wild yesterday. The drivers were just opting out. You can opt out of the Nouvelle chicane. You can do so at the first corner of the racetrack. That's Sam Devot. And Lando Norris is in touch here with Charles Leclerc's benchmark time. 500ths back. And there's time to be found in these final corners. That's the Rascals. This is Anthony Noakes. Past the cone that DC had installed at the final corner. We'll get to that in a minute. As he goes past us, he did find the time. Turned a deficit of 500ths of a second to an advantage of 100th of a second. And Norris, well, that will give him confidence going in to the final part of the qualifying. Ian Lawson wants to be there in the top 10 as well as the lead.
I wake up many times in the night. I should sleep in darkness.
Everyone finding time out there.
Game on, isn't it? Game on the whole way through the field. Try and get those final 10 spaces. Only 3 more drivers will go out with the 2 Mercedes here, and no one wants to be one of that trio. Red Bull looking good. Verstappen's waiting in the pits, but he's just gone out, so he'll join the fray.
I gotta
See
take
what
some
he can do
tension
as
out
Oda jumps into the top 10 just.
Yeah, that's not going to be good enough. With 4 minutes to go, he's going to have another attempt.
Lewis Hamilton's having another attempt. We joined one of the great direction changes of the entire season on the way in to the swimming pool section. Hamilton not having the middle sector that he was for, but can he reduce the gap to the 2 ahead? Norris and his teammate Charles Leclerc, who's only qualified on 1 occasion since he joined the Ferrari team at the start of the year. That was back in Shanghai. He won the sprint race. He goes over the line. No improvement of lap time for Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, that middle sector is where it didn't work out for him. I was actually wondering if he would head to the pits, but it was obviously close enough that he felt that even if he got half a tenth, given how close we know the qualifying times are, everything would count. And this is just happened going to open a lap that we'll hope will take him closer to the 10.5 of Lando Norris.
It's learnings as well for these guys. I think Hamilton's safely through there in 3rd, even if it is tight margins, but he needs to learn and finish the lap to explore how he can find the small margin that he's got to his teammate, and he needs to try and he's been sort of chasing a 10th or 2 generally through the weekend. Occasionally he's got to within a 10th, but he's always been that little bit behind. They've been looking at the data across the other side of the garage, and every time you're on track, if you never back with the soft tyres, it's just a chance to dial in and explore that little bit more before Q3.
Red Bull looking very dirty as we pin flat to the floor. Max Verstappen, personal best in sector 1, looking for a clean lap to book his place in the top 10 shootout in a few moments' time. Driver who so far this year has 3 pole positions, and that is not leaving anything on the table. DC turning away from the screen.
I thought he'd lost the rear there as he went through to back. He certainly had a second stab at the turn as he went through that corner, so not as smooth a hooked up lap as we would normally expect from Verstappen.
It's good enough for P3. We have seen him bounce off the walls around here to pole position in the past. It's only going to get more exciting. Oscar Piastri, championship leader, in 5th position. We've been talking about Hamilton chasing the time. Piastri's been chasing it a little bit across the course of the weekend so far compared to his high standards in qualifying this year. And it's Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Piastri, then medium tyres. So Albon, Alonso, Sainz, Lawson and Tsunoda, who is just scraping through at the moment by 0.03 of a second ahead of Hadjar, Hulkenberg and Ocon, who are the 3 drivers currently in the drop zone.
So those medium tyres are not bad. I mean, we're looking at the best lap of the weekend from Norris.
What box is that?
Yeah, box. I can't hold it.
Wait.
And Alonso is exactly 7th, 6/10 away from the pace in an Aston Martin that has struggled a little bit for 1 lap pace so far this weekend. He's up in the top 10 on the mediums.
and for all the laps that he's driven around this circuit. The first time he was in this Grand Prix, 2001, the joy in his voice at having completed what he believes is the maximum behind the wheel. The fastest first sector for a second there belonged to Isaac Hadjar. The track rubbering in, it's in its grippiest right about now, and Albon has now the fastest first sector. Albon in P6 going very, very quickly. Hadjar looking to get into Q3 once again. Something he's made a habit of in his rookie season. This would be the 4th time if he can post it in the top 10.
Impressive first sector there from Albon on those medium tyres. Hadjar, well, continues with personal bests. Let's see whether this is an improvement overall.
Sainz could be under pressure here in the second Williams. He's down to 10th. Lawson improves up ahead of him as well. The Williams has been good, but Sainz is now on the cusp.
You must find an improvement, and Hadjar gets to P6. That's outstanding. Albon is going to be really close to the top. P3 for Alexander Albon, ahead of the reigning world champion. The second Red Bull is occupied by Yuki Tsunoda. Doesn't have a personal best. Sector 1 or Sector 2. You add it all up, and it's 12th position for Yuki Tsunoda. He can't fight his way into the top 10.
Nor can Sainz. Sainz is done.
And Sainz, who had an ordinary first sector, found an improvement Sector 1 and Sector 2, but on those medium tyres, his teammates switched to the soft and got to 3rd. He's in 11th.
He switched to the soft as well, but he didn't find pace on that soft tyre. He went nowhere.
Oh, tagging the wall! 4-wheel drift for Oscar Piastri, who's in P6 at the moment, trying to discover how to extract the best. He goes up to 4th, but he was lucky that wasn't heavy at contact.
He's been painting the Alco this weekend, hasn't he? All around the circuit he's been brushing it. And he has another stop there, trying to find that pace of his teammate. Look how close it is at the top though. 3/10. I mean, we can almost include Hadjar within half a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's so unfair, honestly. I get it to happen like this, I get it.
Well, Yuki Tsunoda frustrated. He will not find himself taking part in the shootout. And in the end, the 3 to join the Mercedes pair. Sainz, and that is a surprise, he's been in the top 6 for the last 3 Grand Prix in a row. Switched to the soft tyre, could not get the same performance. And Albon out-qualifies Sainz for the first time in 4 races. Takes the lead in the head-to-head battle. Tsunoda doesn't make it into the top 10. And Hulkenberg, the 3rd driver, to join Russell, who had a car failure, and Antonelli, who found the barrier at the end of Q1.
Yeah, see that initial application of the throttle, leaving Vasquez excited the rear into a slide, and then you have to hustle it as we go on board with Yuki. This is where he gets traffic. I thought he was complaining about Hadjar.
So he's a long way away from making it through there at the end. He's 6 tenths down on his best lap, trying to improve.
Emotional, my guy. Damn. Can't do this. What actually is hell?
And that's the difference. On the mediums, both Williams looking really good. On the softs, Albon able to improve to under 2/10 of a second away from the outright pace in Formula 1 qualifying. And Sainz didn't have the same feel. It has been a circuit where Sainz has a terrific record in the past. He has scored in all 9 Monaco Grand Prix which he's competed. Only Lewis Hamilton has done that in the last 9 Monaco races, but he's going to have to make progress. The driver who finds himself P11 at the end. Satisfaction then for Esteban Ocon. He's having a right roller coaster in Formula 1 qualifying. He's gone out in Q1, then made Q3, then gone out in Q1, and now he's made Q3 at a circuit where he's been on the podium in the past. This is Ocon across the line. I imagine he's going to be told he made it. I imagine he's going to be pleased.
We're through, Esteban, we're through, we're P10.
No, coming in. Good job.
Yes.
Nice job, Esteban.
That's what it means. It means the world, especially on a racetrack like this. And well, he can be well satisfied using his experience to get him through.
Let's send it back to the rooftop.
Alright, we're almost there.
Now with Alex and Ruth.
McLaren versus Ferrari right at the front of Q2 with Max Verstappen around 3 tenths behind. Let's take a look at that battle, Ruth, between Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. First up, the data, and it's really interesting. The difference between these two cars around the lap, isn't it? Take us through this and tell us what we're seeing here.
This is what's happening right now in the garages. The teams are trying to understand where they can find the tiny, tiny differences. Just 100 splits the two drivers, and actually the percentage time that each of those drivers spend on full throttle, braking and cornering is exactly the same, but there is big differences. That Ferrari is still faster on the straights. It's really strong through Massimo, but it's push and dump, and actually Lando is behind by the time he gets to sector 1, and it only takes it back into braking into turn 5. Tiny, tiny margin gains throughout the whole of the race, and once again Charles phenomenal in that sector 3 section. As we go into the swimming pool chicane, comes down to a single hundredth. It's all to play for going into Q3.
It really is all to play for going through Q3. Let's see how that looks on the racetrack though, with the Ferrari super fast in a straight line, up Beau Rivage, then the McLaren snatching back performance all the way through the racetrack. So this is the section of the racetrack where the Ferrari is better. The power out of the first corner at Sandibot. You can see Charles Leclerc on the left of your screen, slightly ahead, but look at the performance the McLaren has. On the way into Massenet, Lando Norris able to connect that second apex of Casino Square, and now finds himself much closer to Leclerc. Relatively on as even as they make their way through this tight and twisty section, although McLaren's slightly better traction out of the hairpin. Making their way through Portier. Now look, on the right-hand side, it's Lando Norris who's slightly ahead, and that's what we can see from the data. Charles is going to have to claw time back through the very final few corners of the racetrack. Could this be the battle for the pole? We see in just a few moments' time the high-speed performance, or higher speed performance of that McLaren, tailing again into back as they go flat out through the swimming pool. Leclerc is electric in the second part of the swimming pool chicane, opening up the corner more than Lando Norris on the way into Rascat, and getting the power and traction through the exit. Across the line, slightly ahead for Lando Norris. If you had to call it right now, Ruth, who would you pick of those two?
I always pick the home hero. So if you're a driver right now, if you were Charles, where do I find that 100th?
Throttle 1 metre earlier out of Sandibot. He's got 3.3 kilometres to go and find it. Let's see how they manage to do it, and indeed if they manage to do it in Q3.
It's just one link.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Alex.
This
was the analysis of what has been. We are now building up to a special couple of moments in the Formula One qualifying year. The crowd are ready. I hope you're ready wherever you are watching around the world, because what comes next, there are no easy pole positions in Monaco. You've got to take the cars to the barrier. We've seen the top two so far from Speed and Water is an excellent sign made there in the crowd. But it's not the sort of chatter that Charles Leclerc wants. All he wants is another home pole position.
Yeah, but you can see his eyes smiling. He's watching the same live feed that we have and is broadcast, as you say, around the world. So, yeah, Lewis Hamilton, he trademark has his visor down. You never really get an insight to the eyes, exception with places like Singapore and night races where we get the wonderful visuals with the clear visors.
Incredible atmosphere, lining these famous 2 miles. Brand new soft tyres for the McLarens, who will be hoping to lock out the front row. Ferrari will be hoping the same. Max Verstappen wants to do what he's been doing all season long and leave his best until last. Piastri has 3 poles this campaign. Verstappen has 3 in 2025. Lando Norris hasn't been at the front of the field since the start of the campaign, and Charles Leclerc is looking for a 4th home pole position, and the list of people that he would join if he achieves it is fairly good. Senna, Fangio, Clark, Stewart and Prost. That is some list if he's on pole in a few minutes' time.
Well, he certainly sort of penciled his name there. Whether the others will allow him to put it in permanent marker remains to be seen. And this is, as you know, is the moment that I always really get excited. The opportunity of the track being